the waterfront reset a little bit, but it's a general kind of updating memo that kind of lays out some of what I talked about today, but has obviously a lot more facts and figures and numbers and charts and options, and it updates on even the first few of the public consultations that have taken place on that very plan that I had on the slides. That plan is not something I revealed today. It's a map that was put up right here in Scarborough when I was here 2 weeks ago in a public meeting attended by 300 or 400 people where they specifically were invited to talk about it, and we've had, I think, 4 of those meetings across the city, and so I'm just out selling, in particular the Scarborough part of it today, because I believe it strikes the right balance, it makes the right modifications to ensure a political consensus behind it that will make sure it gets approved and we get on with it, but it's not a new plan that I dreamt up. It's a plan that was actually conceived of by our experts and put forward by them, and it'll be commented upon in more detail in this report tomorrow.
Questions?
Has that's a question about some of the talking points around this new optimized line. When the first Scarborough subway was voted, we heard so much about ridership, so much about the debate around which number existed. And now this time around, we were told by the chief planner ridership is but a small component, and we're hearing a lot about kind of lifting Scarborough out of its economic doldrums. Where do you put ridership as a justification for building transit on your list? And my second question is, if half of the people who ride transit in Scarborough are staying in Scarborough, what is the new plan propose 2 ways to get downtown?
Well, actually, I think that is the second part of your question. Why does it propose 2 ways to get downtown? I mean, Smart Track, for example, is also a way to get around Scarborough. I mean, if you wanted to go on one of the feeder bus lines from the north part of Scarborough and come down to the south, you can use Smart Track for that. And it also does propose an LRT, which will be very good at moving people from the terminus at U of T Scarborough. And even for that matter, the Scarborough subway is a way in which you can get around parts of Scarborough if you choose to only use it to go to the Scarborough Town Centre from Kennedy, for example. So I don't accept the premise of the question, but I would say that exactly what I've said about this plan overall. This is a plan that I think actually addresses the transit needs, not entirely forever and ever, but of all of those groups of people, those who want to go to other parts of the city, those who want to go downtown, and those who want to go within Scarborough. And that's why I said the plan consists of the entirety of transit options, pretty much. Buses, LRTs, subways, and heavy rail. And those all perform a different function in what we're calling, quite deliberately, an optimized transit network.
To the premise of my question, do you think that more people will now become, the premise of my question is fair. If half the people using transit in Scarborough are choosing to stay within Scarborough, you're choosing to put forward 2 ways to get downtown. Yes, they have other purposes and other ways they can be used, but do you envision that number, is your goal to grow that number?
No, I quite deliberately said, I mean, I'd be happy if people choose to work and find opportunity or find schooling opportunities downtown, that they should have a better way to get downtown, because a lot of them complain now who do work downtown. And let's not forget, 48% means 52% are going somewhere else, including downtown. But I want those people to be able to get downtown more easily, and I made a point of mentioning probably 3 or 4 times in my speech that I also wanted to create the possibility, the real probability that people are going to want to come from downtown, where we have tens and tens of thousands of people living, and work in Scarborough. And they need both the opportunity to find a job out here, and they need a way to get here. And right now, I hear from people all the time who say, whether it's Scarborough or even Markham, where there's a great concentration of high technology jobs that will be served by Smart Track, that one of the real disincentives, if you want to live downtown, to working at one of those technology companies in Markham, is how to get there. And I'm telling you, I meet people all the time, and I meet employers. I met an employer in Markham who had a software business employing 400 people, and he told me his biggest challenge is to get qualified people to come from the city of Toronto, which is where they choose to live, to his place in Markham. And in the end, I mean, I'm not just about making sure that people can get around. I'm also about making sure people can get access to employment. I've talked about that. And I want that employment wherever possible to be in the city of Toronto, but I want people in the city of Toronto to be employed. And if they choose to be employed in Markham, and that's where they have an aspiration to be involved with a company that's doing business there, I want to be able to provide a means for them to get there and to get home, wherever home is, Scarborough or downtown, because I think that's my job.
My first question, though, where do you put ridership?
Oh, well, I think if you go and look at the city's own report, it has, I believe, 7 or 8 factors that are taken into account in deciding sort of how and what and where and what kind of transit you build, and ridership is one. And it's important, but I mean, if you said to me, do I put it first or fourth or eighth, I don't really know, but I just say it's one of those things you have to take into account. But I think the notion that we've become obsessed with that as the sole basis upon which you should decide either where transit goes or what kind of transit you should build is a mistake. There are many other considerations, including future considerations and growth. Ridership ridership is an estimate given at a point in time, and oftentimes it's given at the end of a transit line. And the point has been made by Jennifer Keesmaat and others that if the number was 3 times as high at the end of the transit line, you could have a situation where you could build transit and the trains would be full from the beginning of the line, as opposed to having capacity that fills up as you go along. I don't think there's going to be any trouble filling up trains based on present experience that start at the Scarborough Town Centre and go down to Bloor and Yonge, which is where this subway will go. There's not going to be any trouble filling those trains because you know what? They're full now. And so I think if we get the new signal system on Bloor Danforth, which is part of what we're going to invest in, and get more train capacity and have it go to the Scarborough Town Centre, which I think will be good for Scarborough and good for Toronto, it will actually increase the opportunity for people to use that public transportation. Our job will then be to make sure that the capacity of that line can handle those people. Last question.